know it's been way too long. I've got an hour to update you on 6 months of what's been happening in my life. So this is a bit of a challenge. At least it's going to force me to go straight to the point. I actually wanted to record this video in French because even though it sounds effortless, it's still an effort for me to speak in a language that is not primary mine. But then I thought at least I'm going to close this back chapter in English, and then if I want to start vlogging in French, then I will be able to do it in the future. Anyways, the last vlog that I've recorded, I was still in France, and that was mostly an update with the situation with my back. The main reason why I flew back to France last year was to get surgery on my back. The good thing about France is that yes, healthcare system has many benefits, such as the price. When you're French, everything is pretty much covered. But the downside of that, there are so many delays to have an appointment. I had to see some specialists for the spine, which took a few months. By the time that I actually managed to see the right person, my back was significantly better, to the point where we both decided with the surgeon that things were heading in the right direction, so there was no point in doing a surgery. When I made that decision that I was just going to give it more time and go ahead with the things that I was doing, such as the rehab with the physio and training, but training the right way, then I decided that it was time for me to fly back to Australia. I think within a couple of weeks I booked my flights. I spent Christmas with my family back home, but I flew back to Australia literally on New Year's Eve. I took off from Paris, was the 31st. My first few weeks in Sydney were a little bit chaotic. A lot of things were happening. I had to go back to work. I was working for the gym called Zero. Still working online on the side. Accommodation wise, I thought it was going to be much easier. Based on my previous years, I was like, yeah, no stress. I'm going to land in Sydney and then have a look at different accommodations. I was dating a guy at that stage. He picked me up at the airport and I spent a few days at his place. It was middle of summer. All the accommodations were already taken. Many people were also looking for accommodation, so the prices were just crazy and there was nothing available. It was a bit of a mess. In the end, I found something which was short term. So I stayed for a couple of weeks in Bondi just to give myself a bit more time to find my actual place. Within these 2 weeks, I could not find anything long term. So I moved then, still in Bondi, to another short-term place, which was meant to be a couple of months. And as soon as I moved in, after like a week or so, that girl told me we have to move out. I was then in another hurry to find something else. Here in Australia, you often find accommodation through Facebook groups. If you want to live in Bondi, it's called Bondi Loop, Coogee, Bronte. You don't really go through agencies. You deal with tenants. So it can be easier, but it can also be harder in the way that you're not protected, which is what happened with that place that I was meant to stay for a couple of months. I had no contracts, nothing. So when the girl said we have to move out, I was like, well, I have zero options. This was so stressful because guys, I've been in Australia for almost 9 years and I have lots of stuff. 6 or 7 suitcases, lots of bags with like all my kitchen stuff. It's a hustle and I really wanted to have, you know, a place to call home. End of January, I found a studio in Bronte. It wasn't a proper studio, it was part of a house. I didn't have my own entry. I had to walk through the main gate and then go down the stairs. At the start, I thought this is such a great idea because it is a family, I'm feeling safe. The guy even said to me, if you feel lonely, because obviously all my family is in France, you can come upstairs and have dinner with us. But really quickly, I realized that this guy, the landlord, which was the owner of the house, was a creep. I was feeling so uncomfortable. He would walk into my flat without asking for permission. I would come back from work and things in the apartment were missing. Random stuff. I had to move out really quickly. I ended up moving to this place that I'm in February. But yeah, anyways, finding this place was a nightmare, and at the start I actually had issues with this place as well because previous tenants were flying back to Brazil, where they were from. They were meant to do the end of the lease cleaning. It did not happen like that. I arrived and the apartment was a mess, but like most of the stuff were still there, food, clothes. It was an unfinished apartment, so I had to buy the furnitures, but I didn't ask for their shit. You know, it's like I buy the sofa, I buy the bed, but I'm not buying all the things that you're living inside. They were in a hurry, I'm sure, to go to the airport. Anyways, I ended up messaging the landlord to send me someone to clean. But because I bought the furnitures from the previous tenants, the cleaning lady was not allowed to clean the furnitures. She was only allowed to clean the kitchen, the bathroom, which means that I had to clean all the furnitures myself. One of my best friend, Aeon, came to help. We spent one day cleaning everything and it ended up being pretty fun. But yeah, that was not easy whatsoever. Now, I live in Coogee. All the eastern suburbs is really expensive, but I'd say Bondi is a bit more hectic. It's a Bondi bubble. Loved it when I was there. I just feel like now I need something that is a bit more quiet. When I was living with my ex, we were living in Bronte for 3 years. Beautiful area as well. A bit more suitable for families and couples, but still really, really close to Bondi, to the junction, to the city. And Coogee, it's another vibe. Coogee is a bit more Australian, but also suitable for families and couples. I really, really like it, and it's also really convenient for me to go to work because there's an express bus that goes straight from Coogee to the city. Beautiful neighborhood. I live literally 5 minutes to the beach, so I'm really lucky. It's a studio, it's a gym. Especially over the weekend, I've added some decorations and now I'm feeling extra comfy. This was for the apartment situation. Now, updates in regards to my back. Overall, much better. It's probably never going to be like it was at the start. Still remaining extra careful, especially with loading the spine, but I'm pretty much back to where I was before. I designed my program in January. I kept it for 6 months. I've just changed it again, but to give you some numbers, I managed to have my dumbbell Romanians back to 40 kg per hand, barbell Romanian deadlifts with 80, hack squats 90, so decent numbers. I'm training upper normally. I'm remaining careful with overhead press. It's one of these exercises where I would not push to failure, just because especially on those last few reps you really tense your neck and that can trigger some pain, but overall much better. And actually all the flare-ups that I've been having since I came back from France were when I was doing random stuff. I can deadlift 80 kg just fine, but when I'm in the middle of a PT session and I'm quickly grabbing a 7 kg dumbbell, this is when I'm going to tweak my back and then I'm in pain for 5 days. When I'm really focused and conscious with my form and I'm bracing properly, then my back is fine. I have tried to do a couple of handstands and it's not bad, but it's not great. Probably not ready yet to start flipping again, and maybe I'll never be able to flip again. Who knows? I will probably try at some stage to go back to manic gymnastics and flip with my friends, see what I can still do, but it's just not in the cards right now. Other points, health-wise, because as you know, there's always something going on with me. When I was in Paris, before I took off to go back to Australia, my dad invited me to the Moulin Rouge, which, guys, if you've never been, I highly recommend you to go. It was literally the best show I've ever seen, to the point where I was like, I would love to be one of these girls. But I think you have to be a certain height. It's like 170 and I'm 159, so it's never going to happen. You're probably not allowed to have tattoos either. Anyways, when I was watching the show, I started to have a weird pain just here. I thought, oh, it's just random, this is going to go away. I was a little bit concerned because I thought, I hope it's not the appendicite. I'm not sure how to say it in English, I'll probably write it down. But that thing that you have to get surgery on it. It's almost like point côté. When I was on the plane, did not go away. The first 3 weeks in Australia didn't go away. Pretty quickly, I went to see my GP. She said, okay, well, because of the location of the pain, I'm going to send you to do an ultrasound because I don't know if it's the liver or if it's something else. I did the ultrasound pretty quickly. My GP called me to give me the results. She said, we found some sludge in your gallbladder. Gallbladder in French is vésicule biliaire. She said it's basically like sand sitting at the bottom of my gallbladder, which creates pain. Long story short, she said go and see a specialist because they might want to remove your gallbladder. And I was like, what is that went to see the specialist. He said, before we remove your whole gallbladder, we are going to try to dissolve the sludge. He gave me a treatment which I had to take for 2 months. In my mind, it felt like it was not working because I was still experiencing the same pain every day. Some days it's worse than others, but I'd say I always feel it. And then some days it's extra bad and some days it's a bit better. Now, I did ask how comes. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that it could have been because of the energy drinks, because as you know, I drink a lot of Monsters. Even outside of Monsters, I drink a lot of Pepsi Max, a lot of Cordial, so I thought maybe that could have been triggered by that. But my doctor said it was more so an imbalance of estrogen and progesterone. At the end of the 2 months, I had to do another ultrasound to check if the sludge was still there. I was laying on the table. One of the first questions that the lady asked was, do you have endometriosis? At the end, she said, you do not have sludge, but she did say that I have cysts on my ovaries. She also mentioned that the pain I was experiencing in my gallbladder would be a consequence of endometriosis. Now, if you've watched, it was probably one of the videos that I did with Bryony. I was already talking about endometriosis. Long story short, my period have always been extremely weird. At my first period, it's 18. I do remember that they were pretty intense, as in I had to wear the biggest pad that you could find. Pretty much the equivalent of what baby wears. Those big paddings. I remember that when I was on my period, every time I was laughing or coughing or sneezing, that would make my pads overflow. But I also then had anorexia, which is the main reason why I've lost my period pretty quickly, and then I didn't have them for years and years and years. After anorexia, moved to Australia, started to do bodybuilding, which did not help with my period situation. So for pretty much 8 years, I didn't have period at all. It would have been pretty hard for any doctor to pick up on the fact that I have endometriosis, because one of the main symptoms is extremely painful and abundant period, which I didn't have. My period came back probably like a year ago. They came back really strong again, but they also came back with crazy pre-period symptoms. It's hard to compare because period is something that every female experiences differently. I do experience really strong pre-period symptoms, such as the mood swings, the hunger, the extreme fatigue. Also, now that they're back, they're still very irregular. I can have my period, let's say, first of the month, and then I can have them again 2 weeks after, and then I cannot have my period for 2 months. Some research online, and guys, if I do have endometriosis, because I'm still in the process of getting the diagnosis, that would explain so many things. You know, it's so weird, but it's been years that I'm saying to my mom, there is something wrong. I feel like you can tell when there's something wrong with you. Over the last 10 years, I've experienced some weird stuff. It started with IBS when I was in high school, then crazy eczema, but it's not always crazy. It's like I go through waves. When I say crazy flare-ups, I mean I ended up going to emergency. I was scratching my whole body to a deeper layer. Not even blood, it was pulse. I had bandages around my wrists, around all my fingers. And I remember when I went to hospital, they said to me, oh, but this is related to stress, you gotta stress less. I'm like, I'm not even experiencing stress. Anyways, also more recently, psoriasis, which I have on my knees and on my scalp. It's just a bunch of different things that isolated does not mean much, but when you put them all together, it does make sense. So when that lady mentioned about endometriosis, I then booked an appointment with a gynecologist. We did all the tests, all the basic stuff. She checked all the things down there. She said everything's fine. Also checked my egg count, and that was fine. Now, the last step of the process in order to get a diagnosis is to do an MRI, which is an internal MRI. I'm going to have that done soon. I must say that if I do have endometriosis, it's more so for me knowing what's the underlying condition that causes all these weird things happening. Now, it's not going to make a crazy difference in my life. I think nowadays it's not impossible to have babies when you have endometriosis. It's just harder. Until you try, it's really hard for them to say whether you're going to struggle to have them naturally or not. If you watching this and you have endometriosis and I'm saying things that are not correct, please feel free to send me a message in private. But this is all very new to me. Like, I'm saying this to you right now, but this is something that I found out over the last few weeks. That is for the endometriosis part. Now, the visa situation, because I am getting close, finally, after almost 10 years, to have my citizenship. What does it mean? It means having an Australian passport. Having double nationality, French and Australian. This is great news. 25th of June, I've got a phone call with my lawyer to discuss the rules to apply. I know that I have to wait a year after I come back from a trip that lasts more than 90 days overseas. I flew back home for a little bit more than 3 months, something like 95 days. I knew that I was going home for surgery on my back, so I was fully aware that that trip would have been longer. I came back the 2nd of January, which means that I will be able to apply in January 2027. The reason why I have the phone call with my lawyer soon is because you don't simply apply for it and get it. You have to do an English test to check that you have a decent English. It's not just speaking, it's also writing and listening. But you also need to do a test of Australian culture, culture générale. So I will have to learn about basically the story of Australia. To be honest, I think it's pretty fair because I'm about to become a citizen of another country. So for me, it's the bare minimum to kind of know what happened in the country and the major events of why Australia is what it is nowadays. This last step of the process is probably one of the easiest. It's also, I think, one of the cheapest stage. The lawyer fees are around $1,000 and the application, if they haven't changed it since the last time I checked, is around 2.5 grand. The whole process was around 30k. Once that you've done the English test, the history test, and that you've provided all the documents such as the police checks and health checks and stuff like that, then they invite you to an official, it's like a ceremony where you have to dress up nice and they give you the passport, but it's something very formal. I would love my parents to be there for that. They might come. Initially they were meant to come for Christmas this year. They came once in 2018. I think that was my first year in Australia. But with the current situation of what's happening in the world, all the flight tickets are extremely expensive. So they're unsure whether they'll be able to come to visit me this year. But if not, that'd be sick if they can be here for my ceremony. I believe that I'm about to become Australian. I'm getting a bit emotional. When you're from overseas, you don't really have a home per se. You're in this weird situation where your home back home is not your home anymore. Sorry. And your new country, for me Australia, does not 100% feel like home either. But the people that you have around you become your home. My home is my people. So if I have great people around me, this is when I will feel the most at home. I was on the phone with my mom yesterday when I said that I would be able to apply in January. She was like, oh my god, it's so far. And I realized that, guys, we're already in June. It's been 6 months that I'm back. Time flies, and I know that until January next year it's going to be even faster because I've got pretty much stuff happening every single weekend or every single month, whether that's a festival or a birthday or a wedding or a shoot, which is something that I'm going to discuss in a sec. On top of that, I'm also working so much. My week goes like that. When I came back from France, I was working at ahah and in another gym in the city, and on top of that I also had my online business, which means that I was working 7 days a week. I recently decided to quit ahah. It's been a week that I'm now only working in the gym in the city because I have way enough clients. On top of that, I'm also getting a decent amount of admin hours, whether that's contacting new leads or doing some on-site prevention, having to talk about how important health is and the benefits of training and eating the right foods. I actually really like my job. I still have my online, which is a big part of my income. It's something that I love doing because it allows me to work with people from different countries, whether that's France, Germany, UK, you name it. But I think it's the first time that I'm actually enjoying going to work. The gym's great, my team's great, I really enjoy the demographic that I'm working with, which is office people. It's very different to all the clients that I have been working with in the past. Remind you guys, I live in the eastern suburbs, so most of the gyms that I have been working for before were more so eastern suburbs people. My usual kind of clients is girls around my age who have a goal of body recomposition, working towards a comp, working towards a shoot. But since I work in the city, I work with office people, and at the start I wasn't really sure whether that was right for me or not. In the end, it ended up being a really good surprise because I work with a lot of lawyers, people working in finance, and these people are actually really funny. I thought that I was going to struggle to bond with them because as coaches, we spend a lot of time with them. Like, you do know certain stuff about their lives that are pretty private. So having that diversity of the tasks that I'm doing during my days, during my weeks, the main reason why I'm enjoying this job so much. Now, the last two things that I wanted to discuss was relationships and photoshoot. Relationship wise, as I mentioned before, when I came back from France, I was in a long distance relationship. Basically, I was dating that guy on my birthday around May 2025. We've dated for a couple of months, it didn't work. Went on with life. Just before I took off for France, I went to a bodybuilding comp, the IFBB show, bumped into that guy again. From that moment onwards, we just started to reconnect. I flew back to France. We were calling each other every day, messaging every day. When I came back, I spent a few days at his place, and pretty quickly we realized that we were not a right fit for each other, which was a bummer after talking about our future for pretty much 3.5 months. So I was pretty much going through a breakup, and a few days after I was meant to go on a festival which is called Dream States. I remember messaging my girlfriends being like, I don't know if I want to go to that festival, I'm feeling pretty down. My girlfriends were like, Laurie, come have fun with us. I ended up going to that festival. There was a guy in the group that was pretty good looking, but mind you guys, I had just broken up, so in my head I was just going there to have fun with my friends. During that festival, I ended up flying between different groups. That's me, I'm just doing my own things. Most of the time I end up being on my own, front roaring. That was the mindset that I was in. I just wanted to dance, I just wanted to have fun, which is what I did. Walking out of that event, I bumped into that guy again. Long story short, from that moment onwards, we were like this. Over the weekend, one of my friends from France messaged me and she was like, I'm so happy for you because it feels like you're thriving with your job. You've got now a new partner that likes the same things as you. And I was like, we're actually not together anymore. We broke up a week and a half ago now. It's still pretty fresh, but yeah, I basically met my ex-partner at a rave. In a way, it made me realize that you can meet people without using dating apps, which is great because I hate dating apps. On top of that, after breaking up with that bodybuilder that I was dating last year, I also promised myself that I was not going to date another bodybuilder. It was nice for me to date someone who was not necessarily from the bodybuilding industry, even though he was training and having the lifestyle of a bodybuilder. Just having other things in common, such as techno, raving. Long story short, I think we just realized that it was not working. Also, I met my ex-partner pretty much a week after I ended things with that bodybuilder, and it was the same for my ex-partner. He was dating someone else and he ended things with his ex-partner just before meeting me. So probably went too fast from the start. But again, I don't think that this is something that you can control whilst you're in the midst of it. I'm not a big believer in time is a healer. If there's one thing that I've learned the hard way throughout the years, whether that's for breakup or something happening in life like depression, because I have been struggling with depression in the past, rock bottom has a basement. If you remain passive, don't do anything for your situation to get better, you are going to fall into an even deeper hole. This is 100% sure. I've experienced this in the past. Last year, when I injured my neck, I went through that whole identity crisis of, if I'm not a bodybuilder, who am I? Type of thing. And I fell into depression because I felt like I had no purpose. My whole identity was linked to being a pro bodybuilder. Also, my job as a personal trainer, I was not able to work anymore, so it felt like my whole world just collapsed. I started to isolate myself, and honestly I made things so much worse for myself. Ended up finding another job in a restaurant and started to take actions to feel better. Flew back to Europe, spent 2 weeks in Spain, spent some time back home. Ended up recovering that way, but it's not time that got me out of depression. It was me taking action and myself another job. Stopped to feel sorry for myself for the situation that I was in, and instead of having that mentality of if I can't train like a bodybuilder, I refused to go to the gym, accepted the fact that anything was better than nothing, and ended up going back to the gym and training for my mental health, doing things such as isolation for my legs, really light upper stuff. And this is how little by little I managed to climb back the hill. So yeah, with this breakup, don't get me wrong, it was not easy. The day after I was like, do I just call in sick at work because I don't have the strength to go to work? I saw my clients and I was like, did my first session, did my second session. I was back to back for like 5 clients. It felt so uncomfortable. And then the more clients I was seeing during the day, better I started to feel. As human beings, we thrive around other people. You fake it until you make it right. But again, you have to put yourself out there. You have to keep seeing your friends, keep going to the gym, keep doing all the things that you used to do before. I was like, you have to do something for yourself. Realistically speaking, I don't think that I will be able to compete this year. I'm a pro in fitness, which means that if I want to compete, I have to travel overseas. With my visa situation, it's not possible. With my back situation, for now, at least not possible. So I thought, let's just do something fun, but something that is still going to challenge me. So I found that girl on Instagram who's got a vibe that I really like. I've got a phone call with her this afternoon to discuss logistics, outfits, hairdresser. Location wise, I've got a few ideas. I don't want to spoil you, but it's not gonna be a random shoot like I did with Jay, where I was wearing cute pink and green sets and it was very colorful, and it was in a nice villa. I had hair extension and I was blonde. This shoot is going to be me delivering a strong message. It is something that I want to do for myself, also for my business. It's great to have content where you are looking, you know, leaner, muscular, so you can promote yourself on social media. The photo shoot will be end of August, so I've got roughly 2.5 months. Obviously, I'm not going to be complete. I don't think that this is what looks the best on camera. I want to have muscle definition, I want to be lean enough, but I also want to be a bit full. So whether I cut and then start to refeed towards the end, just so I can have that lean but full look, we'll see how it goes. So it's now week 1 of the cuts. This morning I weighed myself, I was 58.5. I think that I will get down to, I don't know, I'd say between 52 and 55. My last comp on stage I was 46. I also hope that I've built a decent amount of muscle in the meantime, that I don't have to get that lean to have muscle definition. I think for my last shoot with Jay a couple of years ago, I was 56, but I was not lean. So I think if I can get down to 54, that would be great. Around 5 kgs to lose in 2.5 months. It is going to be deficit, but it's not going to be something too aggressive, which is good because I work a lot. We're talking between 55 and 60 hours per week. So I still need to have this amount of food, to have this amount of energy to get through my days and my weeks. My maintenance is around 2,200. Dropped my calories to 1,900, and I'm just going to monitor if things are heading in the right direction or not. At the moment I am coaching myself just because I don't feel the need to have a coach. I had the same training program for 6 months. My body was like done with this program. I reached that stage where I felt like I was getting close to the point where I was going to get injured. This week is the week 1 of my new block program that I'm probably going to keep for the next 6 months. Now I'm going to start using a proper tracker again to have my body weights daily, my weekly average with my calories, with my steps, and I'm also going to start incorporating some cardio, which I have not been doing in a very long time. I'm just going to start gently, probably with like 1 session of half an hour, and then I will slowly increase that if needed over the incoming weeks. Energy expenditure is naturally extremely high So it's going to be hard for me to increase my steps because without making any effort, I'm already roughly around 20k. So steps is not something that I will be able to play a lot with, especially now that I work so much. But definitely cardio and calories are the two that I'm going to be playing with in order to get as lean as I need to be for the shoot. The next few months are going to be about looking after myself, goals, citizenship, spending time with my friends. As you've probably seen on my social media, I'm often going to raves, which, if I'm being honest, is something that I've always loved. But when I was in a long-term relationship with my ex, this is something that he hated about me. During that whole 3 years, I did not go out even once. I love raving. This is part of who I am, part of my identity. That's pretty much it for the updates. I've really tried my best to keep that nice and short. We'll see where life takes me, but I'm feeling pretty positive overall. Let me know if me vlogging this cut is something that you'd be interested in, and maybe incorporating some training stuff as well. When I did my cut a couple of years ago, I did weekly vlogs. Unsure if, realistically speaking, I will be able to vlog weekly, but I could try to do something fortnightly. That was it for the update, and I promise that the next video will not be in 6 months. Missed you all, love you all, bye.